I want to talk about why I turned down $1,100 in order to make 150.
Hmm.
Seems like a wild proposition, but hear me out. So this week, I have gotten two inquiries from two different agents about two different events. The first one came in; they were both, Facebook deals. One of the things that I absolutely love about this network of people in this community is that we do share information, we do share availability, and that kind of thing. And it's given me an opportunity to make really good connections and help other people along the way. But this week, on Tuesday, I got a note that a band based in Atlanta, so like a corporate group, was looking for a sub vocalist for a wedding this weekend. So I reached out and I was like, "Hey, what are the details?" And it was an event in South Florida that required travel days on Friday. The event was south of Tampa, which is about 8 or 9 hours from here, with like 2 nights in a hotel. And the pay was about $500, which is good money. But, in that scenario, I'm looking at spending my entire weekend away from my family for a single night's worth of work for $500. And, I couldn't justify taking that time out.
Sure.
So I said, "Hey, I don't think I can make that work. I think the travel's just too much. I'll ask around and just see if anybody's available." So that was on Tuesday. Today, I got a similar request from a guy who I've done work for in the past. Same kind of deal. This one was in Mississippi, which is technically a shorter drive, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
And the pay was a little bit more, but I can't for the life of me justify spending 14, 15 hours in a car
Yeah.
to make that kind of money.
Yeah.
So I also turned that one down. Now, some of the guys that did take that gig are based in Alabama, and actually, I played with them previously. Those guys are doing that gig,
Cool.
and
The ones from a few weeks ago?
yeah,
Nice.
and they were actually ones who were like, "Hey, why don't you have Adam come out?" And I reached out to him directly today. I was like, "Hey, man, I can't make the drive. It's just not
Yeah.
it's not feasible for me to spend that kind of time away for the money that they were offering." And once he heard, he was like, 14, 15 hours? No way, man. And in doing that, a gig at one of the restaurants I normally play at popped up.
Hey.
And so I put my hat in the ring for that one. So instead of making, potentially $1,100 between those two gigs, or, one or the other, I did take a really cheap gig less than a mile from my house. And in doing that, it was just kind of a matter of, I can go and I can spend 3.5 hours of my life to make, money.
Yep.
It's not huge, but it impacts my family significantly less.
Mm-hmm.
And is something that I can, send to other people to, come out. And it's more of a social thing, and not this, massive, logistical production.
Right.
So
What would the price have been that would have gotten you out there?
if I'm being perfectly honest, it would be closer to $1,000.
Uh-huh.
If I got asked to drive that far, it would have to be around that
Yeah.
number.
Yeah. That's
And I understand how that's not reasonable for a lot of people and for a lot of gigs.
well, yeah, okay, but it's not reasonable to ask you to drive 15 hours for it. That's the math, right? If they're going to be an unreasonable request needs to be paid unreasonably.
Yeah. I was talking to my son and he was like, "You did what? You turned down what?" And I was like, "Listen, I'd rather spend time with you guys than do that." And he was like, "What about $5,000?" Like, for $5,000, I'd be there with bells on.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? But it's just, I can definitely think of times in my life where either one of those opportunities, I would have probably taken them.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want it to sound like I'm not grateful that people think of me in those moments, and to be trusted enough to handle last minute gigs like that. It's just that, in this current season, I don't need the money that bad.
Yeah, and there might be a time when that would be, the calculus of all you have to weigh to make that decision would line up differently, and you would do it, right?
Sure. It's just not now.
But not now. Yeah.
You know, in my case, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and you know, like I said, I'm definitely grateful for the offer, but just couldn't make it work.
Yeah.
So I'll gladly take a significant pay cut in exchange for quality of life, which I feel like I've earned.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul just chimed in, said, you need to include total time commitment against the rate for the gig in order to kind of make those
essentially
calculations. Yeah, because if you took either one of those and put them against the hourly commitment, it was like minimum wage.
Yeah.
To do those.
Yeah.
So it's just not worth it.
Not worth it.
It's weird to turn down a gig that would pay you $600.
I don't know. I think we, setting aside the weirdness of our times, I think a lot of times people in our industry make decisions that are not the healthiest in terms of work-life balance. And, you know, you're not really leaving somebody in the lurch. There's somebody else after you.
Yeah.
If you say no, you're not screwing them up. They have other options almost always. I don't know about this weekend. That's cutting it a little close, but, you know, so you don't need to really worry about, am I souring this relationship, or am I, that's not, in my experience, that's not really a thing. If you can really say like what I'd have to charge you wouldn't make any sense. So, you know, thanks for the offer.
Well, and another thing to think about this is from a business owner standpoint. The one that I got today, there's a bit bigger of an issue. So it's one thing when it's like Monday or Tuesday and the gigs on Saturday. It's another thing when it's Thursday and the gigs on Saturday. Like, what has happened up to this point where you are looking for somebody that close to the event?
Yeah, somebody already bailed, right? You're not their first choice.
Either they bailed or they didn't do enough legwork on the front end.
Sure.
And I don't want to get too heavy into it, but there's kind of like a respect issue there. Like, how much do you respect your client, and how much do you respect your players to kind of put them in a situation like that?
Yeah.
Because you're not being set up for success in a situation like that. You know, on one end, you don't have everything that you need in order to do a good job, and then the person who has, you know, probably paid for this well in advance isn't getting the end result that they were expecting.
Right.
And so that's kind of like a twofold issue.
Right. And you know, do you respect your own performance and the quality of what you deliver more than to try to Hail Mary it out in a couple of days prep time? You know, all around, it's not a good setup. And, you know, somebody's looking to make something happen that's already, you know, the show is limping already, and they're going to try to bring you in to solve that, and saying no to them doesn't help. But, you know, on some level, that kind of has to be not your problem. I mean,
sure, it's just kind of a messy situation.
It's messy. It is. It can be messy.
I think in conclusion, I think you need to look at those situations for what they are, know your worth, know what you're willing to take and what you're not, and just kind of make an educated decision based on that information. Don't overextend yourself under the concern that you may not get another opportunity like this, because the fact of the matter is that this is kind of a rough opportunity, and you know,
and they know
better
it.
opportunities
they know it
will present themselves.
Yeah.